restrictions about coming in with cameras off. So thank you for that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Niehaus, and I am the Program Administrator for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services at the Kentucky Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities. You are joining us in our third workshop in our Communication Access Planning series. We started off learning about the lived experiences of people with hearing loss trying to access services. Grounded in engaging and respectful dialogue to meet individualized communication needs in different contexts, we then learned about the impact of hearing loss and different accommodations that can be provided. Today, we're going to learn about implementing the Communication Access Plan, or similarly named document, within 2 community mental health centers. We'll wrap up our series on June 26th with a national perspective on hearing assistive technology and national resources for agencies to use in implementation. Today, we are joined by 4 panelists representing 2 community mental health centers, or CMHCs, 7 counties, and New Vista. Both agencies have specialized programs for deaf sign language users. They also serve the highest number of individuals with hearing loss in the state, people who use all kinds of communication methods. So let's get to know our panelists. Each person brings a different perspective and skill set to implementation. So when it's your turn, please give us a brief explanation of your role in getting the Communication Access Plan implemented and sustained at your agency. And let us know a little bit about the skills you've used to help make that happen. So let's start with Anna. And Jessica, I'm going to go ahead and have you turn off your camera. We're asking people to, thank you. All right. So that we can see our interpreters and everybody clearly, we're keeping our participants' cameras off today. And we do encourage you to ask questions in the chat. We'll take questions towards the end. Excellent. Anna.
Good morning. My name is Anna Duncan. I am the clinic director with New Vista for one of our areas. My role in the Communication Access Plan has been working very closely with Zach, who is also on our panel today and will introduce himself, to make sure we had everything that we wanted actually on there, how it would be communicated, and then primarily I helped get it into our avatar system.
This is Michelle. Thank you. And Zach, you've already been named, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Childers. I'm a clinician at New Vista. I'm also a signing therapist. My background is in interpreting sign language, and so I'm able to provide direct communication with deaf and hard of hearing people in ASL. Um, my role on the Communication Access Plan, CAP, has been to work with Anna closely and just to reiterate, just to have the verbiage that we needed to have to be able to communicate the same concepts and ideals appropriately and clearly to the clients who come into our office. They'll read the paper or we'll read it, and just to make sure we're collecting the data we need from them, the appropriate data we need.
This is Michelle. Thanks, Zach. I love how this has been a team approach with the clinical part, the technical part, the quality improvement, data collection. The Communication Access Plan really can serve lots of different functions. So Courtney, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Courtney Seymour, and I am the unit manager of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing team at 7 counties. My role as far as the CAP form has been helping with when the reports have been ran, just ensuring like my team is completing forms as needed, and also giving any kind of feedback of like changes or edits that we need to make sure we have on the form. So, yes.
Thanks, Courtney. I love too how it's a process, right? So it doesn't have to start perfect. Hopefully, we are learning as we go, and that's one of the things we hope all of the audience gets today is that you don't have to start with a perfect product, that you can work together as a team and improve as you go. Adam, not last but not least.
Good morning, everybody. So I am Adam Barmore with Seven County Services. I am the QI project director. I have lots of clinical experience. I've been with seven counties for 24 years. So it's really nice to use a lot of my clinical background to help roll out something new to staff. My role with this was really to interface with our form builders, our report builders, and getting the form into Avatar. I was also part of the rollout team and then also managing. So once it was out there, we had to use the report and manage to make sure that it was getting used the way we wanted it to. So that's been my role.
Thanks, Adam. All right. So each agency approached implementation a little bit differently. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on each agency summarizing how they started the work, who was involved, and where you are now. So Adam, if you want to launch into your PowerPoint, that would be excellent.
Okay. All right. Can someone let me know that you see it?
You are up and running.
All righty. The technical difficulties are not existing yet. Very good. So this was something Courtney and I worked together very closely to make this presentation in the PowerPoint. And this is just going to highlight some key things that we did during our project. So getting started. One of the nice things that we were able to do at seven counties is we picked for our 2024 health equity plan, we focused on the deaf community. So we already were able to roll the cap itself into our overall plan. One of the other areas that we developed was a training that went out to all staff. It was called the Deaf Community Cultural, Diagnostic, and Treatment Considerations. We were able to do this in a section both for clinical and business staff. Anthony was able to record a session for us that we were using with our business staff as they greet clients and come in. And then the more diagnostic and treatment considerations were incorporated into the clinical section. This whole process, we worked very closely with our seven counties deaf and hard of hearing team and also our overarching clinical quality and compliance committee. So we had a really high level involvement with everyone in the organization. And this video itself was in Relias, which is an online format. It also had a lot of embedded videos, which was really good. We made sure that we incorporated some of our DHH staff so people could see how important they are to the community and to see them signing and let potential clients and our team know what that looks like. And then part of that training also included the CAP. So it was our rollout, and then the CAP really enforced why this is important. And just as a side note, so Joint Commission requires a health equity plan. Our health equity plans fall under the National Patient Safety Goal, and it really focuses on healthcare equity. So, of course, effective communication is just paramount to any type of effective therapy. So this just dovetailed beautifully to include the CAP in this. So to choose the CAP, there was a PDF that went out called Planning for Effective Communication Toolkit from the cabinet. I believe Michelle sent that out. We were able to choose a CAP that was already developed by the Hearing Loss Association of America, HLAA. So we already had one that was vetted and looked really good that we could incorporate. And again, we ran this by our DHH team for any feedback, and it was something that looked great. And so we started to develop that. We're really lucky at 7 counties to have a really skilled Avatar NX form building team. So we were able to get this form submitted back in February of 24, and then it was already live by March of 18th for us to test. So we had really quick turnaround about that. I'm going to show the form in just a little bit as well to let you see it. Another component of it is we developed a widget in Avatar that'll show just key elements of this form really quickly when you need it quickly. And then it also incorporates a client alert. So when charts are accessed, you just immediately see that the client, the individual, has a cap. So with no further wait, here is the cap in Avatar. So actually this form, it scrolls an avatar. So you will see I had to do individual screenshots just to kind of highlight some areas. But in the form itself, it scrolls. So you'll see some of the sections just to highlight. The first part says who the plan is for. We have a box for client, parent, guardian. So this was one of the nice early feedback things. Our child and family acute team really early on asked us to add parent guardian in. At first, we just had client. That was on the form that we started with. But lots of time, a parent guardian may need the plan and the client themselves may not. So it was really important that we added that box in. So just an example of how the team worked together to make this very usable. You'll see the next section asks about how the individual identifies, hard of hearing, deaf, deaf-blind. The next part talks about what type of devices the individual may use, hearing aids, cochlear implants. If either one of these is checked, then a box enables that shows if it's right, left. You can select both. Same thing for cochlear. And then there's a box at the bottom to explain any other devices or implants that may be used that's not included up here. The next section, as we scroll down, it says, what can the office provide? So when an individual comes in, example may be like a pocket talker, caption phone. So just some examples. Anytime you see a light bulb in the form, if we were live in the form, if you click on it, it'll define all these areas for staff who may not be familiar with, maybe what a pocket talker is. So for staff, they can click the light bulb and all these areas will be defined for them. And then there's a box for further explanation. The next section are services that we can provide. Again, you'll see a light bulb that will identify all these different areas. You'll see things we're all very familiar with. The thing that I really like about this form is if you click interpreter, this box will enable to the side and an individual can specify a specific interpreter that they are comfortable with, they already have a relationship with, and we'll do everything in our power to use that interpreter if it's possible. So it's nice to have that information right there. And just another box, our other box that we're seeing throughout here, just to add anything that might not be explained on the form. And then the last section of the form, I think this is also excellent. It has the waiting room practice. So when the individual presents, how do they want to be notified that it's time to see their provider? And you'll see some examples there and then other if you need something else included. The next section is about follow-up communication, different ways that communication can go out between appointments, scheduling, and then a box to explain that further if needed. And then the last section here, this is really for staff. We talked about, this is a box that alerts them that a communication access plan, there's a client alert. They can check yes and go right to the form and fill it out right then if they have the time at that moment. Or they can also check no if they're in the middle of like a crisis situation and they can fill that in later. So that's it with the form. This is the widget that I was mentioning. This shows an avatar in a different view. What it shows is the bottom part. It says Communication Access Plan. It picks out key elements. And just to explain, Gonzo Avatar is a test client. So I'm just showing test client info here. But you'll see it shows who the plan is for at a glance, how the individual identifies. It'll put services needed, and if there's an interpreter specified, the name will be there. So in this test case, I already put, that Adam interpreter is the preferred interpreter, and at a glance, it'll give the waiting room practice and then any other information. So this is something that's very useful. The other nice thing about the communication access plan, this is a clickable link. So if client comes in and something has been changed on the plan, all you have to do is click on this. It'll take you right to the form to update. So you don't have to go looking for the form. You can just click and update it right there. And then the last part of this is the client alert that I talked about. So this is very nice. So anytime that you access the client chart, a pop-up box will appear that says client has a communication access plan. There can be other alerts in here as well, like our suicide prevention pathway, things like that. Important things will show in this box. This will even show for scheduling. So if a scheduler is making an appointment, clicks on the client chart, this will immediately pop up, even at the scheduling point where things can be used. Not quite as visible, but still useful, is there's a client ribbon at the top of Avatar. You'll see that there's a circled area and it'll notify that there is a communication access plan. Avatar has its limitations, so that's as far as we can get with it, but it's pretty critical information there. You can see communication access. The more impressive thing is the big client alert that'll appear just center page anytime you access the chart. So rollout. So we got all the stuff together. So how did we roll out the plan? So for 7 counties, our deaf and hard of hearing services falls under the Child and Family Services Division. Our VP, Jacqueline Craig, did the rollout in a big supervisor meeting in April of 2024. The supervisor meeting is one where the managers and supervisors come and then they cascade information down to staff. Then the follow-up to that was the QI project director, which is me, sent out some emails after that to follow up. The nice thing about this is I shot a screenshot video. So it was us, our forum. I was walking them through it, showing them how to use it. Just a nice visual to let everybody know how to use it. So that went out in May of 2024. We also had other members of quality. We made sure that we went to division team meetings to kind of get out that message in a different way to let people know the importance of the plan and how we're using it. So that was June and July. And then finally, we had the training that I mentioned earlier that was released in the last quarter. So on top of these other parts, we had the nice video that all staff took. It was a required training for our health equity plan. And so the next part, the management and follow-up, everybody's favorite, right? Make sure it's getting done. We've done all the fun parts. Now we have to make sure it's being done. So the thing we did is we also have report writers for Avatar. What we did is we made a compliance report. We matched designation on our state reporting form of deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing. If that was indicated on state reporting, the report then checks to check to see what the completion date of the CAP was. So if the CAP was not completed, it would just be blank for the date. And so this was a really quick way to find which were missing. And then I started sending these out monthly in July. And so I used a pivot table. The pivot tables are just a really quick way to organize it by teams. So this went out to team leaders. They could literally just click on the number, a new tab would open, and then they have just their staff members. So they didn't get like totally barraged with data they didn't need. They were really getting what they needed. And then we were very upfront. We wanted a 75% minimum by the end of December of 2025. So it was nice to keep this kind of barometer going month to month to show where we were. I'll be honest, when we got to December, I started sending them out weekly to make sure we were getting there. And luckily, we did reach our goal. So when the data was run really early, January 9th, we reached 88%. So very excited by that. Now that we're into the 2025 year, I've been sending them out quarterly. The quarter report for first quarter, we were at 87%. And then second quarter, I will be running very shortly when June is over. And then, based on that number, if it goes up, that's awesome. We'll communicate that. If it has slipped a little bit, then we have the reports and I can follow up directly to make sure that people are getting the plans. And the nice thing would be if the numbers slipped, it would mean that, we're getting more clients in from the community. So that's awesome. And so it's actually a situation where it would be good to drop a little bit, just make sure that we get the plans in. All right. So that was my part, was the implementation of it. Courtney, who is the unit manager, is going to talk to us more about the feedback that we got when it was rolled out. And Courtney, I will drive the slides for you.
Hey, this is Courtney. As he mentioned, we definitely want to hear the feedback from folks that are using the form. And so our family and child and family acute team, as he mentioned, gave us some feedback about adding when the parent is deaf or hard of hearing and us being able to accommodate them and make sure their needs are met and when they come into session. So the therapist is prepared that, okay, even though the child is hearing, I still need to have an interpreter prepared for their session and be able to have them on site for a live interpreter. One of the things we also was develop the pop-up, as he mentioned, in the state reporting. And so that is going to be nice for clinicians to be able to know, like, okay, I have to do this additional form, because I will say our evals are very intense as far as the amount of information that are in there. And so it's easy for a therapist that is seeing clients back to back to forget, oh, I need to do this additional form. So having that pop-up allows them to be like, here, don't forget this. We're going to make sure that you get this form done. And if a clinician misses it, the nice part is those reports that come from Adam, managers and supervisors are able to follow up with their staff to remind them as well. So we catch it. If we don't get it done at the initial appointment, we're going to catch it at some point when the reports are ran. So also, one of the things that we really found that is super helpful and beneficial to have in the CAP form is the fact that the alert that pops up, it allows any staff that is accessing the client's chart to be able to be notified that they have some kind of accommodation that we need to make sure that we meet. And so, for example, if a client comes in and they only speak ASL, the clinician can go on and start scheduling their ASL interpreter ahead of time for their appointment. And so that part is really nice, not only for the clinician, but for our business staff. They're able to know, I need to have my iPad ready for when this client gets here to be able to communicate with them effectively. Also, as Adam showed, the widget, that piece is also, it's easy to access in our online medical records. It's right there by the phone number. So even if you're just like, you click past the alert, when you go to look at the client's phone number, it is there. It clearly says that they need an ASL interpreter. And so that way you can catch yourself before you just hurry up and try to call a client. You're able to recognize, like, okay, I need to make sure I also have an interpreter for when I do reach out to the family, which is really nice. And what we're also finding is that clients appreciate that as well. So they don't have to do that same song and dance every time that someone reaches out to them, having them to re-explain that they need an interpreter or having to have someone else explain that they need an interpreter. One of the, of course, with my staff, with clinicians, anytime a new form rolls out, there's always this anxiousness of like, oh my goodness, another form. And so one of the biggest things that like Adam and his team tried to make sure is that it's a quick and easy form to fill out. And so that piece has made it really, it's just a couple checks. They don't have to print anything. It's nice that it's already on their computer because they're on their computers doing their notes or evals anyway. And so having that quick inside of the online medical records helps. It makes it quick and easy. It takes less than like 2 minutes to fill out, unless there's like of course, like more background story that the client wants to share, but it's quick. Just go through, click a couple boxes, and then you're able to be done with the form. So. Again, as I mentioned, I love the reports because definitely as a manager, it is hard to keep up with when things are missing from different clinicians. And so when Adam sends out his report, he sends it to all managers. I receive those, I filter out my team to figure out who's missing forms, and then I just follow up directly with them. I usually will just send an email. And then if I have some staff that I know don't always check their email as they should, I print it out for them and I'm like, oh, hey, while we're in supervision, did you forgot to fill out this form? And then to encourage them to follow up with the clinician when they with the client when they see them. So all right. Couple of things that I've gotten back as far as feedback is the customer service piece. Business staff have been able to communicate more effectively with clients. It's been a great educational moment because I think sometimes people will just think, oh, I'll just pull out pen and paper and just talk to them that way. It's been an opportunity to educate of like, let's meet their needs the way that they want their needs met and make sure, do they prefer an interpreter? Because before, I think that was an issue that we were finding is that when they come in, they're like, oh, I'll just write down what they need, when that's not the effective way. And that may not be the client's way of wanting to be communicated to. And so with the CAP, they're already able to be prepared when they see the clients on the calendar. And when they come in, if they open up their chart, it tells them exactly how they want to be communicated. And if they want an interpreter, who to reach out when they request an interpreter, make sure that we can see if that particular interpreter is available. And so that customer service part, it seems like for clients, it gives them like a peace of mind that they don't have to re-explain that over and over. It's just already in the chart, and it doesn't matter who's at the front desk because as soon as they open up the client's charts, the information is there. So that even if they went to a different office, that information is available to whoever it is that is touching the chart, which is great. Providers, there are times, unfortunately, that our clients will be in crisis. And so they may not be able to see their primary therapist, and then they will have to see a different therapist in that crisis situation. And so we have found that that is helpful if we have a client in crisis. The clinician that is opening the chart is already able to see what is going on and what kind of accommodations they need as far as communication. And so that has been helpful because it makes it faster. They're able to be more prepared in their sessions as well. A couple of examples where I personally have seen where the CAP has been helpful is like, for example, we had a client that came in to the office. They were closed, but they were trying to get information about how to return to services. Business staff were downstairs and they said, hey, there's a client down here that wants to speak to a manager. I was like, okay, give me the client ID. I looked up his chart. I saw that his CAP was filled out. I saw that he prefers a interpreter. So as soon as I got downstairs, I grabbed the iPad, was able to get a live interpreter online online on the iPad, and was able to talk to him about how to return his services. Whereas before, there was like this confusion of like, how do we talk to them? I think, again, like I mentioned, people were trying to go old school and just like pull out the pen and paper, which we know is not an effective way of trying to communicate all the time if that is not their preference. And so it made it quick, whereas there wasn't this confusion going on. I was able to immediately have a good communication with him about how to return to care. So it eliminated that barrier of him returning to services. Other things that I've also found that has been helpful is like when, like I mentioned, when other providers have to see another clinician's client, they're able to be prepared. We've had one that had a preference as far as which interpreter, and so he got this new client because we had a clinician that moved, and he was able to accommodate that particular client and making sure he got the interpreter that he wanted and making sure that happens for each appointment. So I think it just makes it a more smooth transition. It also, for the client, I think it just makes them just know that we care and we want to meet their needs. And that is most important when they come here.
Wow, that is some incredible teamwork. Thank you both for walking us through the thoughtful implementation process. I mean, Courtney, you talked about how barriers have been removed, how the process has been created to be usable for staff and to give peace of mind to clients. So it really creates kind of a win-win situation for everybody in the way that this has been implemented. I really appreciate you walking us through each process that way. Just a few key points that I had wrote down. The fact that it got implemented in a little over a month from time that you started building it to time that it was going live, that's amazing. Adding the parent and guardian to the list, I think that's key. Often our providers think that only the client has the right to an interpreter, but often our parents and guardians need that access as well. And you also have been able to identify as an agency that sometimes we're seeing parents or guardians who speak another language. And so that's kind of another level. So having those boxes for additional information allows it not to just be a check off the box, but okay, this family needs this individualized care. So really looking at simplicity in the form, but then making it elegant enough that other information can be included. And having that preferred interpreter piece is essential. We know that behavioral health can't happen well unless there's trust and good communication. And if there are interpreters that are preferred and you're able to get them, that makes a world of difference for folks. And that may be the difference on whether or not somebody keeps showing up for appointments or thinks that you don't care. The widget and pop-up was brilliant. Having an ability for anyone who is accessing this person's information, that helps so much to be able to say whether it's a crisis situation or a new service being implemented within the agency, that there's consistent access to communication across. There's no wrong door, and you will have the access that you need. So I thought that was really wonderful. And then I also was curious with the iPad. So you have virtual interpreting, and my eyes are not great, so I couldn't always see the words on your boxes. Are you able to say a person prefers virtual interpreting versus in-person interpreting? Because that's another piece we sometimes struggle with.
This is Adam. Yes, there is a box on there. I didn't read all the choices on there, but it's very specific about what your preference is. And then if there's something that we don't have listed, there's that other box where that can be described as well. So we can honor any communication that someone may need.
This is Michelle. That's awesome. Well, and I just asked too, because sometimes people only offer the virtual, and it is one of our contract requirements with our community mental health centers that they have in-person interpreters available on request. But Courtney, you gave a beautiful example of you could use the iPad to help a person get back into services. So thoughtful use of virtual interpreting can expand the toolbox. And this is a lot of what this work is about, is expanding our toolbox of how we communicate with folks. All right, so I want to go next to New Vista and have you all walk us through your implementation process, what is similar to and different than how 7 counties approached it, and where you all are now as an agency. So Anna and Zach, tell us about your process and how it's going.
This is Anna. I will get started, and Zach, I'll let you jump in. So unfortunately, we do not have the beautiful PowerPoint that 7 counties did, and I applaud you all for that. It was great. It was also very exciting for me to see that while we are behind where 7 counties is, we are very much on the same pathway. Just in the last month or so, our communication access plan went live in our avatar. So the same thing that 7 counties is using. And it actually looks, I've been trying to pull it up and my computer is not cooperating, but it looks almost identical. So I know that we started with the same communication access plan from the Hearing Loss of America, and kind of did those things. I know that we are in the process of adding those widgets and those alerts. As I said, it just went into our live avatar where we could start using it in the last month. So we have not rolled it out to all of our staff yet. We are still working on that work flow and how to do that. But again, we do have that plan to have the widgets and that alert so that clients can have that preferred interpreter, be aware of if they prefer virtual versus in person, other accommodations that they may need. I know that Zach has been doing a paper form of the communication access plan with many of his clients as we have been working to get it into Avatar. So again, we are nowhere near where 7 counties is, but I'm excited that we seem to be going in the right direction if we're following in their footsteps. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience in doing it with some of your clients?
Zach, I have been using the communication access plan CAP with all the deaf and hard of hearing clients and their family members. If the parents were deaf or hard of hearing, I use that. I collect that data as well. Again, I use the HLAA, that format right now, and then I will stick that chart with the other information I have on them and stick it all in a folder and to have it collected already in one place to have it. So when we do enroll it and it's needed to be updated to the avatar system, it's already updated and it's all in one place. Right now, I'm usually pretty good because it's just me. And when I see clients, I can, I see that they're deaf or hard of hearing. I will get the information in the first session. So it's usually right around in the upper 90s percentage of collecting the data when I meet with them.
This is Michelle. Thanks, Anna and Zach. And this is not a race and it's not a competition, although we would definitely give a gold star to Adam and Courtney and their team for this process. I am wondering, Zach, from your perspective as a clinician and an interpreter, how do clients do as they're having conversations about their own communication access needs?
Zach, sometimes it is that I find with deaf clients, the big D deaf, culturally deaf, they um, honor ASL, the collective mindset, that they are more equipped, I guess, would to explain their communication needs as far as in comparison to other hard of hearing maybe even deaf-blind clients, um, just kind of not as confident or not as knowing what all the assistive technology devices are out there or other communication modes and modalities are out there. So I see that as a pattern in my short time at New Vista and working with the client population I do work with.
This is Michelle. Thank you for that insight because I think that we can develop amazing forms and great processes. But what this comes down to is making sure that we're connecting with the people we serve. And sometimes I think our case managers and our therapists or our front desk staff also need additional training in just how to educate folks. Like, because I can see offering some education around what is available as a treatment planning goal. That could be a really strong case management goal of, we've identified a hearing loss. Let's talk about assistive listening devices, or let's talk about how you can best benefit from treatment. And we don't always think about that in the same way. We also don't always think about the stress and the anxiety that can be involved in trying to communicate effectively in a behavioral health environment and the energy and time that it takes. So we're going to model a way to give folks an eye break. It can be incredibly fatiguing to watch information through sign language or to have to read lips or speech read over the course of a long session. So we are actually going to take a 5-minute break, coming back at about 10:48. And then we will continue with questions. And audience, I hope you have additional questions for this great team. So 5-minute break. We will be back in just a few minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you blinked and maybe stood up or even went to the bathroom. Who knows? People who work in community mental health centers often just go all day without taking care of their own needs, which is also not good. So let's try to take care of ourselves and each other. So as we were on break, I was just thinking about how comprehensive the approach is with the communication access plans and really appreciate all the thought that's being put into how this is done. Even the thoughts around piloting that Zach and New Vista have done, that really has helped to say, okay, here's how these conversations can happen. And I know you all are doing some training for staff next week as well. Can you talk a little bit, Zach and Anna, about the training you're doing for staff to increase their awareness around serving folks who have hearing loss?
Sure, I'll be happy to. This is Zach. So next Tuesday we have a conference called Illuminate at New Vista, and Anna and I will be co-presenting. Um, And our presentation is about deaf and hard of hearing mental health needs, but it's just we're beginning the conversation with the presentation, and we're enrolling it and just stating that it's the beginning of the conversation of how we serve the deaf and hard of hearing clients at New Vista. And within that PowerPoint presentation, we do talk about the CAP outline and document. And we just want to put a bug in their ear that this is coming down the pike and stuff, that it will happen soon. But we're just in the beginning phases, just to share with the mass media at New Vista.
This is Anna, and I will give Zach a ton of credit on this presentation. He is taken the lead and has some great information to share with staff. But primarily, for those of you that don't know, we had a very robust deaf and hard of hearing staff and support for a long time. And then they retired, and then we were without somebody for quite a while. And then we were lucky enough to find Zach. And so we have been in the last year and a half really rebuilding our program. And unfortunately, what happened in that time is that we had staff turnover and we had people who understood deaf culture and deaf services leave and move on. And so we have a whole new batch of people who have maybe not worked with an interpreter or have only worked with um, maybe a Spanish interpreter and not an ASL interpreter. And so our goal in this training is, as Zach said, to start that conversation and get them to be more mindful and aware of different things that need to be done, um, including the communication access plan and the importance of that and how it supports even in that health equity.
This is Michelle. I absolutely think that communication access is a huge part of both health equity and also social drivers of health. You know, when you think about access, a lot of people think about what time things are available, how many services are available, where the locations are. For people with hearing loss, that communication access has to be considered as part of the access as a social driver. So that helps us think too. We have people on the call who may not be at a community mental health center. They may be in a different program. And we would encourage you to think about the communication access program or communication access plan and how you can adapt it for the needs of your population and your services. And I love how you're beginning or restarting the conversation and phrasing it that way, because just like therapy is about relationships, so is our work within our agencies. It's about the relationships we build and the trust we build within our own programs, and making sure people have readiness for the change and have a thoughtful approach and a respectful approach. And it can be hard to be the only therapist in an agency who signs, right? So thinking about how do we build capacity for that compassion, for the understanding, and for putting in place what needs to happen. I think, Anna, you made a great point about turnover. Every agency has had a lot of turnover. And so you have the in-person trainings, and then 7 counties, you've also been able to do some online training. And having Relias as an option, I know that Anthony Adkins, our program coordinator, has done some training on creating a welcoming environment. So thinking about what is the implementation plan for the communication access plan can also help agencies that are like, this feels really like a lot. You can do it step by step. It doesn't have to be all at once, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Any thoughts from you all about training or tips for training people or building readiness?
This is Adam. I would say like a real tip is to involve as many people as possible. Um, I learned a lot through this process myself, and to get it out to the team, I need to be excited about it. And I did get really excited about it working with the DHH team. So I had to build my enthusiasm for it. And again, just the different modes of getting things out. We had the in-person meetings, we have the emails, we have the reports. Relias, even though I wish we could have it in person for every single staff member, what was such a big staff, it's also nice to have the training when they can do it, when they have time. And we were really conscious about building in some videos where staff who maybe have not seen people use ASL in different forms of communication could see that. People who have not met our staff in person for DHH could see their faces and how they're communicating. So again, I just think it's really involving as many people as possible and using as many ways of communicating it, just not relying on one. And it's just constantly kind of reinforcing and getting that message out.
Courtney?
This is Courtney. One of the things that I really appreciate with the rollout with 7 counties is that it was required for everyone. And so I think sometimes people think, oh, this doesn't apply to me, so I shouldn't have to worry about it. The fact that it was required also opened the door for them to be able to learn new information. And what came out of that training was people began to seek consultation. They're like, oh, I didn't even realize this was a resource. And so they started asking questions. They were asking about case management and other resources that we have on the team. And so it also allowed that collaboration to open that door. And I think before people may have just thought like, oh, I'm not on the deaf or hard of hearing team, so I don't have to worry about this. But it showed in what we have found, it's in every department and division in our agency.
This is Michelle. Such great points. And thinking about that idea of collaboration, we have one therapist at 7 counties, we have one therapist at New Vista, and we know that people's needs are great. And so that collaboration is important, and the team approach is really important for anyone. No one staff member should feel like they have to be all to anyone. And so having a way to communicate those needs and then to seek consultation with each other, it helps everybody grow and it helps everybody to be a better provider. So I appreciate you elevating that. I'm wondering if you have certain sections of the communication access plan that you found most helpful, or some that may have been more challenging to either ask about or to address. No.
This is Courtney. One of the recent things, as I mentioned, we like to get feedback from staff. One of the things that we found on our deaf or hard of hearing team was that there are clients that identify to more than one, and so being able to have that option. When it originally rolled out, it was just limited. You select one, whether they're deaf, hard of hearing, but there are clients that may have cochlear implants that may be identified as deaf, but also as hard of hearing. And so that piece has been helpful to be able to select more than one as needed, just so that the client is able to identify how they would like to. So we have found that that has been helpful as well.
This is Michelle. Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, I think that when we conceived of the project, we weren't thinking about the identity as much as we were thinking about the functional communication and what the different access points needed to be or what accommodations needed to be made. So I appreciate really thinking about, it is awkward to say, which one are you? People can be more than one thing. So that's a really important part. And in the sections where a person can check for accommodations, allowing for multiple choices, because a person may use one thing in individual, but they may need something else in group, or they may need something if they're in crisis, they may need a whole different thing. All of our communication can be compromised in a crisis, so they may need additional supports for communication there. Adam?
This is Adam. One of the things too that I think it really emphasized to staff is the hard of hearing population as well, and accommodations that may be needed. We did a whole section in the training on individuals who are hard of hearing. And I think, however that occurs, if it's our aging population or other mechanisms, but I think it was really important to prompt our clients to have conversations with those individuals as well.
This is Michelle. That's great to hear because that's exactly what we were hoping would happen. Oftentimes, people who have hearing loss, especially unilateral or in one ear, they think they don't need accommodations, but their hearing may change over time, or they may not realize how much they're missing. And so, starting to think about how else could you benefit, could you more fully benefit from the treatment we're providing if you had hearing assistive technology? What could that look like for you? And what's the interplay between your mental health symptoms and your hearing loss? Because those things do overlap and they affect one another. Our final part of the series will be on June 26th, and we're going to talk more in depth about that and also share some of the hearing assistive technology. Because I think one of my weaknesses, my training in social work was with deaf culture and ASL and sign language. I didn't get as much training around working with people who are hard of hearing or who have hearing loss. And so we're trying as a department to provide more options for people who may be using a hearing aid or may need some kind of amplification in a room and seeing what that might look like. Um, so I'm excited to learn more myself about those things as well. Let's see. Are there any questions that you wish you'd had on your plan or things that you plan to add moving forward? The only one I can think about is around spoken languages other than English and what that would look like for, like, if there's a deaf individual, a deaf child, and their parents uses a different spoken language, how do we do that? And making sure that those pieces are in place as well. Courtney?
This is Courtney. We have had that case show up more frequently here lately in our deaf or hard of hearing team. That section with the other makes that great to be able to put those additional points of like parents speak Spanish and also needs an ASL interpreter. So it able having that option to be able to put that additional detail has been helpful. We also have the option to add if you wanted it to pop up on the alert where it says ASL interpreter, you can add an additional alert in that box as well where it would say parents need Spanish interpreter. And so there's options to be able to add more alerts to one chart.
Excellent. Thank you. I think you all went into this a little bit and you're all using Avatar. I'm curious what technical support, like who do you need on the technical team or which technical people do you need involved and buy-in to do this, to make this happen in your agencies? Adam?
This is Adam. Um, Again, we have a very small team for avatar builders, but they're very proficient in making forms. So we're just lucky that we have one person who works on form building, and so sometimes we need to modify an existing form, and then a custom form is one that we just start from scratch. The problem with the ones that we make ourselves is we don't get NetSmart support for those at all. So we make them, but we've been on Avatar for so long, we've become, our form builders, I should say, have become very skilled at what to do with forms and we test them out. But yes, without them, it would have been expensive because we would have had to pay NetSmart to build it. So we were just lucky to have people on our team. And again, with the report building as well, that we could have someone who could build the report and use Avatar. But my role is really, I'm kind of the in-between or the go-between the clinical world and the data world because they speak two entirely different languages. So sometimes, someone will request one thing and the data people are analytical people that they're really kind of number based. So it's really important to have someone who's kind of in between those roles. And I think maybe being a psychologist and having that number part along with the therapy part has really helped me with that. But yeah, I'm almost the interpreter for our data analytics people between the clinical world.
This is Michelle. I feel like we need to clone you. We need a lot more of Adams in the world who can do that interpreting. So for folks who may not have Avatar, I am wondering, like clearly you all spent a lot of staff time on this, but I'm wondering if there were other expenses involved or if you were all able to build these things internally for New Vista and for Adam and Seven Counties. Anna?
So this is Anna. I was just sitting here listening to Adam and thinking ours was the very similar, right? We have an internal person that built it to put it into Avatar. Same thing. We don't have the support of NetSmart when we do that. But very lucky to have those people that are proficient. But as far as additional cost, I think it's what we do with what we have, right? We have those staff that build it. and put it in. So over and above that, I don't think there was any additional.
Okay. Thanks, Anna. So for those in the audience, it's a great time to start popping in questions into the chat, and we'll start getting to those. I have a couple more questions for the group. So as panelists, I'm wondering what advice you may have for those just starting this process. Is there anything you wish you would have known before you started, or things that you wish would have been approached differently as you've tried to get this in place in your agency? Anna?
This is Anna. Um, I think what I ran into was feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, and this is so much bigger than anything I know. And then with the support of Michelle and Zach and some others that we reached out to and things like that, realizing that it's not too much. It is very doable. Just breaking it down into more manageable pieces. Um, for those that are not at maybe a community mental health center, you may not need to put it into an electronic form and all that. It may be that you use the paper form that can be modified to what you have available, and scanned into a chart or something like that. So there are lots of options. So I think my advice would be just remember that it is doable and it's manageable. Um, and just because we have done it this way, it doesn't mean that it always has to be that exact way.
This is Michelle. So I love the advice of like, just try it, get started, break it down into small parts. And just like there's no one size fits all for communication, there's no one size fits all for this process in the form either. You can make it your own for your own agency. Adam, I saw your hand, and then did I also see Courtney's hand? Okay, let's start with Adam, and then we'll see if Courtney's going to add to that.
This is Adam. And I agree with what Anna said. And to add on to that, don't be afraid to make mistakes and ask questions. It's like I said, I learned so much in this process. And if I didn't ask the questions and be willing to not be right or to admit that I don't know things, it would have been a different experience. So really rely on your team and your experts, your content experts. But yeah, it's like, and I like Michelle that you said that a lot today. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We have to make mistakes to get things right. But it is very doable. But it's been a really great kind of team building activity as well to really highlight our DHH team. And during this process, we made sure that we even had some YouTube videos and things that we're putting out in marketing to make sure that they're getting the exposure that they need so people can see our staff. So, that's been the best part of this to me is just this really team building activity. But please don't hesitate if you feel like you don't know what to do. Just jump in and rely on your team.
This is Michelle. Great advice. And I love that it's become a team building opportunity. We were doing something similar with 7 counties and with North Key in terms of a new project we hadn't tried before. And we were doing dinner table project. And we brought together people from the agencies who'd never met each other before, who had talked to each other before. So we had like this goal of what we wanted to do. But the other benefits were how much we all learned from each other. We had no idea about their programs, they didn't know about ours. And it was so much fun to learn from each other and to take, what each person could contribute to the process. It really makes it a lot more fun when we can bring who we are into the work and what we know and share that with each other. Courtney, did you want to add to that?
Yes, this is Courtney. With the rollout, Adam and his team definitely made it easy for the agency as far as the trainings and all the preparation that went behind the scenes. I know with having clinicians, when they hear there's one more form, there's this anxiousness that happens. But once we did it and rolled it out, we saw the benefits of it. And so it made it worth it. So it's definitely worth putting in the work and putting in the training that goes along with it because it is worth the client's experience. And so we wanted to make sure that that is the key thing that we keep in the forefront.
Courtney, what a beautiful segue. My last question is about your thoughts on how the communication access plan affects the quality of services for people with hearing loss and why it's important in behavioral health care. I just want to ground this back in that why we're doing this as well. Anna?
This is Anna. I will jump on this one because I'm very passionate about it. My mom has been deaf in one ear since childhood and is 82 years old, so has a little bit of hearing loss in the other ear as well now. So just growing up with that and the importance of, I learned at a very young age I needed to sit on one side of her so that she could hear me better, things like that. So being able to have her providers know those things, right? That if they're talking to her, for example, when she was in the hospital, sitting on this side of her, she couldn't hear them very well. Um, so I just think about the times that this would have been vital for her, and made her experiences so much better. And not having her have to say things like, I'm sorry, what? Oh, are you talking to me? Um, So when I think about implementing that and putting that into where our clients are coming in to be seen and making that as smooth and person-centered for them to meet them exactly where they are, um, is just amazing to me. And I think validates the clients and really shows them that they belong here and that they're important and we value them.
This is Michelle. That was beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Would anyone else like to chime in on that question? Adam?
This is Adam. So I have some personal experience with this too, which is interesting. So when I was growing up, my dad is hard of hearing. He has cochlear implants now. But as an adult, he just one day told me he thought I wasn't responding to him, that he was talking to me and I wasn't saying anything back. And it was just this sad realization that that caused so much friction between us when I was younger. And it was, because his hearing wasn't addressed, his hard of hearing, he didn't have cochlear implants till I was an adult. So that was really an eye opener to me and just thought of all of the kind of lost time that we had in my childhood. And so again, that's why when I mentioned earlier the hard of hearing population as well, it can be very detrimental to relationships and other things. So that's my personal experience with it too, and why this means a lot to me.
This is Michelle. Thank you for sharing that, Adam. And it's true, there can be so much loss and grief around hearing loss if it's untreated. And we know now that there's evidence that people who don't treat hearing loss may have higher risks of dementia. There's so many reasons to get that help, but also so many barriers to getting that help. And asking these questions on a communication access plan may be a way a person gets more help or gets connected. And you may be making an impact not only for that individual in their therapy or in their services at the agency, but how is that affecting their entire family and what that looks like for them living out in the community. So that's beautiful. Thank you for taking such painful experiences and using them to help benefit other people. Courtney or Zach, would you like to share anything on this one? Okay. All right. Well, I am not seeing any questions in the chat. Um, Audience, you are more than welcome to drop the questions in the chat if there's something that we didn't cover. I think everyone did an amazing job of giving lots of information, and we will share out the 7 counties PowerPoint. And if people have additional questions, I'm sure all panelists will be willing to answer those after the session as well. And before we wrap up, I'm curious if any of you have final thoughts or any words of wisdom as we kind of wrap up today's session. Adam?
This is Adam. I would just say, so big pep talk. You can do it. And like Courtney said, it is worth the effort. It's worth the education to your staff. It's an amazing experience. And reach out to us if you have questions or anything. I'm more than welcome to talk to anyone after this meeting as well. But you can do it.
This is Michelle. I think we're going to end on that. You can do it. We are so grateful for all of you for the information you shared, the work that you're doing, and that you do every day. Thank you to our interpreting team, to Julie and to Kelsey, and to our captioner today, Bonnie. And thanks to Anthony for setting up our communication access. The Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities staff is here to support you as you try to implement your communication access plans in your agencies. Please reach out to us as well. And you can check out our YouTube channel if you would like to watch recordings of any of these things. And I will send out that link to the YouTube channel in a follow-up with the PowerPoint. So thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful weekend.